My name is Avery Quinn, 34 years old.
The kitchen tiles were ice cold against my cheek, and the jagged pieces of a shattered plate dug into my palms as I lay there, heart pounding so loud I swore he could hear it from across the room. I'd just smashed Gabriel's perfect salmon dinner onto the floor, faking a collapse so convincing that for a moment, even I almost believed it. Every muscle in my body screamed to move, to leap up and confront him, to demand answers, but I couldn't. Not yet. One wrong breath, and the truth I'd clawed my way toward would disappear forever. The truth that my husband, the man who'd once held my shaking hands through panic attacks in college, was poisoning me. Just a few months ago, I thought I was untouchable. I'd been promoted to senior marketing director at Horizon Marketing in Chicago, a title I'd chased since I was a kid, growing up in a Cicero suburb, where dreams were luxuries we couldn't afford. I was the first in my family to even attend college, and that corner office overlooking Lake Michigan wasn't just a job. It was proof that I had outrun every doubt, every teacher who said I'd never make it. When I left Mr. Coleman's office that day, my voice trembled as I called Gabriel. "We did it," I told him, expecting joy, pride, something. "That's great, Avery," he said, his tone as flat as a grocery list. I told myself he was just down about work. He'd lost his graphic design job months earlier, and lately I'd seen a different man. Restless, distant, angry in the quietest ways. I believed he'd come around. That night, he insisted on celebrating by cooking my favorite, salmon with his herb sauce, the one that used to make me melt. Our small apartment in Lincoln Park glowed with city lights filtering through the window, and for a moment, everything felt normal. His smile, the music humming low in the background, the clink of silverware, it all played like a memory trying too hard to stay alive. Then, an hour later, the world tilted. My head spun so violently I had to clutch the table. My vision blurred, my heartbeat tripped over itself, and my thoughts scattered like leaves in the wind. "You okay?" Gabriel asked, catching me as I swayed. "Just tired," I mumbled. He smiled, soft, warm, almost tender. "You've been pushing too hard. Let me take care of you." Now, lying on the floor, I saw that night differently. The way he watched me eat, the sharpness of his questions about work, the subtle changes I'd dismissed as care. The dizziness clung to me like a curse. Every time I ate his food, I felt my body slipping away. At first, I blamed stress. The Carver Enterprises campaign was the biggest pitch Horizon had ever taken on, a $15 million deal that could make or break my career. I was drowning in research, staying up until dawn, pushing myself until I could barely think straight. Gabriel seemed like my anchor back then. He'd listen as I ranted about deadlines and presentations, stirring something on the stove while asking, "What's your hook for the pitch? Who's your biggest competitor?" I thought he cared. I thought he was proud. But over time, the dizziness became a shadow that followed me everywhere. I'd freeze in meetings, words tangling on my tongue. Once, I blanked so badly during a client call that my assistant Nova had to jump in to save me. "You're working too hard, Avery," she'd said gently. "You need rest." Even Gabriel echoed her, sliding another plate of salmon toward me. "Your health comes first," he murmured. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. Then came Dr. Patel. She'd known me since I was the kid pretending to be sick to skip math class. Her small office still smelled of antiseptic and lemon tea. "It's always after dinner," I told her, twisting my fingers. 30 minutes later, I'm dizzy, foggy, like I'm not even in my body. "Any new foods? Medications?" she asked. "Just Gabriel's cooking," I said. "Healthy stuff, fish, vegetables. He's trying to help." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "How long has he been out of work?" "A few months. Why?" She didn't answer, just handed me a notepad. "Track everything, what you eat, when it happens." For 2 weeks, I lived like a detective inside my own body. Every bite, every dizzy spell, every blank moment, I recorded it all. And the pattern was undeniable. Every single episode followed one of Gabriel's meals. When I skipped dinner and grabbed a sandwich at the office, I felt alive again. Sharp, focused, unstoppable. I started secretly flushing food down the sink, hiding leftovers in napkins, pretending to eat while watching him watch me. His concern began to shift into something else, something darker. "You barely touched your food," he'd say, eyes narrowing. "You're fading away, Avery." His voice was gentle, but there was steel underneath. One night, as I pushed chicken around my plate, he stared too long. "Something wrong with the food?" he asked, tone clipped. "No, just not hungry." His jaw tightened. "You've been saying that a lot lately." The air between us thickened. I couldn't unsee it now. The way he handled my plate first, the way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes, the faint chemical tang I'd once mistaken for herbs. The truth terrified me. My husband, the man who'd promised to protect me, was slowly destroying me. But why? For money? For revenge? His questions about my work had grown invasive lately. Budget figures, client contacts, security details. I'd thought he was just curious. Now I knew better. Fear turned into resolve. I needed proof, something solid enough to end the nightmare. That weekend, he made seafood pasta, another favorite. I ate every bite, forcing myself to smile through the nausea rising in my throat. 37 minutes later, I could barely stand. I'd hidden a recorder in my pocket, capturing the way my voice slurred, the weakness creeping through my limbs. "I need to lie down," I said, and he helped me to the couch, just like always. His hand brushed my hair back, gentle, practiced. Then I heard it, the soft creak of my office door, the hum of my laptop powering on. He thought I was unconscious. He thought I was his fool. I stayed still, every nerve burning with terror. My phone recorded everything, the sound of keys clicking, the low murmur of his voice. The pieces were falling together, but I needed one final moment, one undeniable scene that would end this. Tomorrow night, I would give him exactly what he wanted. I'd eat his dinner, fake the fall, and record his every word. If I was right, I'd catch a traitor. If I was wrong, I might not wake up. Either way, tomorrow, I'd know the truth. I woke to the smell of citrus cleaner and the faint metallic clink of the knife block. Tuesday. The city outside our window wore the pale, winter blue light that made everything look rinsed and hollow. I moved like I had all day, deliberately, thoughtfully, practicing the choreography I'd rehearsed in the work bathroom between shallow breaths. Smile. Ask about his day. Don't flinch when he touches your shoulder. Don't show your hand until you're ready to drop it. Gabriel was already at the stove, sleeves rolled high, forearms taut as he whisked the pale green gloss of his herb sauce into a saucepan. The cutting board was orderly, lemon wedges like little suns, dill fronds gathered in a tidy pile, a small ramekin of sea salt positioned, as if he were posing for a cookbook cover. "You're home early," he said without turning. "Good. You need rest." "Long day," I said, dropping my bag by the console table, trying not to stare at it for too long, because inside was the recorder, a spare battery, and the little Ziploc bag I'd used to hide each bite. I kept my voice light. "How's the sauce?" He tasted it off the spoon and nodded to himself. Balanced. His smile when he finally looked at me was gentle, curated. "You look pale. Maybe after dinner you should lie down." "Maybe," I said, and I let the word hover like a loose thread. We sat at the table, the city glittering behind him. He plated with care, and I tried not to think of how carefully he plated the first night it happened, the warmth of his praise pressed against my panic. "Eat slowly," he advised. "You've been pushing too hard." "I know," I said. I cut a small piece of salmon, and when he lifted his glass, I slipped it into the bag in my lap, the plastic whispering under the table. Then I speared a sliver of roasted fennel and actually ate it, chewing thoughtfully to keep the rhythm. He watched the pace of my fork, not my face, and I had to fight the urge to push my chair back and run. "So," he said, airy, casual, "Coleman still wants you to present in person, after what happened in the prep meeting?" I kept my gaze steady. "Yes." "No remote option?" His jaw flexed. "Strange, with your health." "It's important I'm in the room," I said, and slipped another bite into the bag, then a real one into my mouth. He inhaled, as if scenting for fear. We made small talk about nothing. The neighbor's new dog, the elevator that kept stuttering on 3, the way winter salted the air and made our window tracks squeal. Twice, when he turned to refill his water, I tipped a dollop of sauce into the bag, sealed it again, and tucked it under the napkin on my lap. My heart beat in my throat. The room felt too bright, the chandelier too white, and every sound was magnified. The scrape of his fork, the gentle tap of plate to table, the heavy tick of the wall clock. 20 minutes. I forced the last staged bite, set my fork down, and slid my chair back. I'm going to finish the deck, I said, already standing. I want to run it once before bed. He gathered plates, smiling. I'll clean. Don't push too hard. In the kitchen doorway, I paused. You're sweet, I said, and smiled like the woman I used to be, the one who believed him. Then I walked down the hall to my office and shut the door softly, just long enough to drop the Ziploc into a larger evidence bag waiting in the bottom drawer. I turned the recorder on, slid it into my bra, and tucked my phone, already recording video, into the pocket of my cardigan. Then I exhaled once, shook my hands, and opened the door again. I staggered, one hand to the doorway, one to my forehead. I feel funny, I called, letting a tremor ride the vowels.
Avery? His voice sharpened, professional concern, like he was stepping onto a stage cue.
Dizzy, I said, and I let my knees go. The ceramic plate on the console shattered when I dragged it off with a loose hand. The sound cracked the hallway like lightning. Cold air slid up the hem of my dress as I hit the hardwood, and for a second the world shrank to the pulse arcing in my ears.
Avery! He was on me in a breath, his fingers at my wrist, counting. Avery, baby, talk to me.
I slackened my jaw, slowed my breathing, let my eyes fall, half-lidded. I'd practiced this in the mirror until I could scare myself. He hovered a beat too long, then rose. I heard the sink running, the clink of a glass. He pressed water to my mouth, and I let it spill. You're okay, he murmured, a mantra for the benefit of whatever conscience he had left. Then he stood again. I heard the shift in his body, the quiet pivot from caregiver to operator. The floor creaked toward my office. I kept my breath thin and silent, counting 3, 4, 5, before I let my eyes slit open. The hallway was dim, the kitchen a wash of pale reflection. From the office came the soft chime of my laptop waking and the hush of a drawer gliding open. Keys tapped. A low curse. The faint click of a phone camera snapping a photo. Then his voice, quieter, colder. It's me, he said. She's out. A pause. The hum of the refrigerator filled the space. Yeah, he continued, voice dropping. Took longer tonight. Dose must have diluted. He chuckled, a humorless scrape. I told you I could get it. The deck, the client lists, the offline budgets. Payment hit? I swallowed, keeping it shallow, and let my gaze drift to the baseboard, where a smear of sauce glowed in the light. It was astonishing, the things you notice when your life is cracking. Another pause. Good. Wire confirmed. 50 even. A chair creaked. Apex will have everything before sunrise. Apex. The name crawled under my skin like ice. I inched my hand across the floor until my fingers found the edge of the wall, as if the plaster could anchor me to the moment. The recorder hummed against my skin. Don't move, I told every shaking muscle. Don't cough. Don't exist. He kept talking, lower now, and I had to strain to catch it. She thinks she's sick, he said softly, almost marveling. Tells her doctor she's dizzy. The diary was a gift. A scoff. No, she won't quit. That's the point. Something metallic clinked. A vial set down. My stomach plunged. I flexed my toes inside my shoes to keep from bolting. Time stretched to a thin wire and then snapped. Far off, the city coughed up sirens. At first it was the ghost of a sound, a memory. Then closer. A ripple of blue and red strobed across the ceiling like the surface of a bad dream, and Gabriel went still. What the? He stepped to the blinds. The sirens grew teeth. I rolled to my side and pushed up to an elbow, breath stuttering. My bag was within reach. I scraped my fingers over the zipper, fished my phone out, and thumbed the emergency text I'd drafted to Dr. Patel. Emergency. He's drugging me. Send police. My thumb shook so hard I hit send twice. Did you call someone? His voice snapped from the office, sharp and bare. I let my body slack again, let my head thud to the floor. A shard of the broken plate pressed into my palm and bit skin. The sting steadied me. He moved fast, footsteps rushing down the hall. I dragged myself behind the kitchen island, my breath tearing now, not theatrical anymore. Adrenaline hot-wired my limbs, and for a heartbeat I wanted to leap up, grab the vial, and end it myself. But the sirens were close enough to taste. He rounded the island and we looked at each other. No masks, no pretenses. I saw the man I loved and the man who was selling me in the same face, and it made me dizzy for real. Avery, he panted, eyes wide, palms up. A performance pivot. What's happening? Talk to me. Don't.
I whispered. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone older. Don't lie to me anymore. The door shook, a fist pounded. Police! Gabriel jerked toward the hallway. I surged the other way, toward the office. The vial gleamed on my desk beside his phone and my open laptop, progress bars crawling across the screen as files copied to his USB. I grabbed the vial first, then the phone. My camera, still recording, caught the reflection of my own face, flushed, wet-eyed, furious. The door blew open with a crack. Chicago PD! Boots thundered down the hall. Gabriel spun, hands up, voice tumbling out in a rush. It's a misunderstanding. She fell. My wife is she. The officer's commands cut him off. Knees, hands behind his head, interlace fingers. Don't move. Detective Harris arrived behind them, trench coat open, badge flashing. He took one look at me, vial in hand, laptop hissing with evidence, and then at Gabriel on his knees, and his face settled into a shape I'd never seen on a human being before. Grim mercy. Ms. Quinn, he said, nodding. You're safe. Step this way. I put the vial in an evidence bag he offered, the plastic crinkling like thunder. Another officer slipped the USB from my laptop and bagged it. The apartment became a choreography of small, precise motions, gloved hands, labeled tags, measured voices. They read Gabriel his rights, and when he looked at me, the show fell away. For a second, I saw the freshman who'd kissed me by the library and said, "We'll always be on the same team." Then he mouthed, "I'm sorry," and the words landed like ash. "Officer," I said, surprising myself with how level it sounded. "His phone will have messages. Payment confirmations. The name Apex Strategies appears in at least one call, and there's a contact, Juan Thomas." Harris's pen moved. "We'll get the warrants. You did well." He turned to the lab tech. "Bag the phone. Run a rapid tox on the vial." They lifted Gabriel. The red-blue of the cruisers washed him in alternating absolution and accusation. As he passed me, he started to speak, some private language we used to share, but I stepped back. My palms were shaking. I pressed them flat to the desk until the tremor passed. Minutes later, the apartment was quieter than it had any right to be. Harris sat me at the kitchen table, now cleared, the shards swept away, while a tech photographed the scene. He slid a bottle of water to me and waited until I sipped. "It's a sedative," he said gently after a beat, nodding toward the bagged vial. "Low dose, cumulative effects, enough to cloud memory and coordination. Long-term exposure can do damage." His gaze searched my face, not for weakness, but for anchor points. "We'll get you to a doctor tonight." "It was him," I said, just to hear it aloud, as if the room needed translating. "He sold me for $50,000. Harris closed his notebook. "He sold more than that," he said. "But you're here. You called. You recorded. That matters." I nodded. Somewhere outside, a neighbor's window shut. It sounded like a book closing. In the suddenly ordinary quiet, my phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Patel. "I'm with you. Sending the address to the ER. I'll meet you there." I looked at the screen until the letters blurred, then wiped my eyes with the heel of my hand. When they led Gabriel past the threshold, I didn't follow. I watched his back, the stoop of his shoulders, the way his wrists flexed in the cuffs, and I understood something I hadn't let myself before. Love had not kept me safe. Attention had not meant care. What I mistook for partnership had been surveillance. Detective Harris stood. "We'll need a full statement in the morning," he said. "Tonight, we'll secure what we have." He hesitated. "You did something very hard." I nodded again, because words were failing, and stood on unsteady legs. In the office, the laptop screen glowed with a half-finished copy. I clicked cancel and watched the bar vanish. The room exhaled with me. The city outside blinked on and off, winks of winter light across glass. I touched the edge of my desk, then the frame above it, a cheap print of the lake at dawn. Tomorrow I would have to walk into a boardroom and show them I could win a war and still deliver a vision. Tonight, I had survived the fall. Tomorrow, I would survive the aftermath. The morning after the arrest, I woke in a hospital bed under sterile lights that hummed like insects. My throat was raw from crying, my palms wrapped in gauze from the shards of that plate. Through the thin curtain, I could hear Dr. Patel's calm voice speaking to a nurse, her words clipped and steady, the way they got when something mattered too much for emotion. When she came in, she smiled, not the kind of smile that meant everything was okay, but the kind that meant, "You're still here." "They confirmed it," she said quietly, placing a hand on my arm. "It was a sedative, Long-term use could have caused real damage. You got lucky, Avery. Lucky. The words scraped against my ribs. I stared at the IV line trailing from my wrist. Did they find proof? Dr. Patel nodded. Plenty. The police have everything. Recordings, the vial, phone logs, the payment trail. Gabriel won't talk, but his messages to Apex are undeniable. For a while, neither of us spoke. The silence had weight, like fog pressing down. Finally, she said softly, "You need to rest. You don't have to be strong right now." But I shook my head. If I stop moving, I'll fall apart. By the next week, the headlines hit. Corporate espionage scandal rocks Horizon marketing. My name was buried in the articles, shielded as an internal victim, but everyone knew. The glances in the hallway said it all. Sympathy, curiosity, fear. Mr. Coleman called me into his office. "Avery," he said, voice low, "you don't have to present the Carver campaign. We can postpone." "No," I told him. My voice surprised me. "I'm finishing it. I won't let him steal this too." At night, my apartment felt like a crime scene even after the cleaners came. The air still carried the faint ghost of herbs and lemon zest, and every time I opened the fridge, I half expected to find something hidden behind the condiments. The bed felt too wide, the silence too honest. Some nights I couldn't sleep. I'd walk the empty hallway, the glow of the city spilling through the blinds, and replay every red flag I'd ignored. The laughter that had slowly turned brittle, the compliments that had come with invisible strings, the way he'd said, "I'll take care of you," not as comfort, but as a promise of control. One evening, as I revised my presentation slides, a letter arrived from the county detention center. The handwriting was unmistakable. Gabriel. I stared at it for hours, the envelope burning a hole in my desk. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Some truths didn't deserve air. 3 weeks later, I walked into Carver Enterprises' boardroom, my heart hammering, under a new blazer that still smelled faintly of plastic wrap. The table gleamed like polished ice. Executives murmured as I connected my laptop to the projector. Mr. Coleman introduced me. "Avery Quinn," he said, "Senior Marketing Director. She's faced extraordinary challenges to be here." The words hung there, delicate and heavy. I swallowed hard and began. "This campaign," I said, "isn't just a pitch. It's about resilience, about what a brand becomes when it refuses to break." Slide by slide, I spoke with a clarity I hadn't known I possessed. Every idea sharpened by pain, every line of strategy born from nights when I could barely breathe. The data, the vision, the story, it all flowed. The room was silent, every face turned toward me, not out of pity, but out of something else. Respect. When it ended, there was a beat of quiet, and then applause so loud it startled me. The CEO leaned forward, eyes bright. "Brilliant, Ms. Quinn. When can we start?" That night, I stood on the balcony outside Horizon's 12th floor, the wind cold against my face. Chicago stretched out in glitter and motion, a city that didn't care who it swallowed or who it saved. For the first time in months, I inhaled without shaking. 3 months passed. The Carver campaign was a success beyond expectation. 40% growth, national recognition, awards. Coleman promoted me to Vice President of Strategic Marketing. People started calling me the comeback story. Gabriel's trial came and went. 5 years in prison for domestic endangerment and corporate espionage. Juan Thomas, his contact at Apex, was arrested too. Apex itself crumbled under lawsuits and scandal. Justice came, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like aftermath. Dr. Patel visited my new office one evening, a paper cup of coffee in her hand. "You look better," she said, watching me stack Carver reports on my desk. "I'm surviving," I replied. "That's something." She smiled softly. "Surviving is the start of living again." Sometimes I still woke with phantom dizziness, my body remembering what my mind tried to forget. But I also remembered something else, the strength that had surfaced when everything else fell away. I started giving talks at conferences, not about betrayal, not directly, but about vigilance, about knowing your worth before someone tries to take it from you. I told young professionals to guard their ideas, their boundaries, their peace. One day, Nova, my assistant, the girl who'd once told me to rest, stood in my doorway holding a coffee and grinning.
"You're trending again," she said, sliding her phone toward me. A headline: Avery Quinn turns tragedy into triumph. Carver's visionary VP speaks on resilience. I looked at it for a long moment, not out of pride, but out of quiet disbelief that I was still standing. That evening, when everyone left, I walked to the window. The skyline shimmered under a blush of sunset. I could see the reflection of myself in the glass. No longer the woman who second-guessed, who apologized, who made herself smaller to fit someone else's comfort. On the wall behind me hung the framed Carver contract, the one Gabriel had tried to steal. I traced my fingers over the frame, the paper cool under glass. It wasn't just a deal anymore, it was proof. Proof that what he tried to poison, I rebuilt. Proof that what he tried to erase, I rewrote. In the silence of that office, I finally allowed myself to whisper the truth I'd avoided since the night everything fell apart. He tried to kill my voice. I looked out at the city lights flickering on one by one. But he only taught me how to speak louder.